used to go late at night and help sneak the girls out of the brothel. He would take them to Cameron House. My mom was always scared of him being killed. Ugh, God, that's scary.
Well,
So brave.
he's yeah, so he was a
Wow.
hero in his own right. He wasn't he was number one, he was I have a script in there like of he had a daughter, and back then they cherished men, right? So his daughter Auntie Goldie's married, and he justifies like, you know what? It doesn't matter because we don't work with our hands, we work with our minds, and so you could be as smart, if not smarter than any man. And so I'm proud of you, and you shall be successful. I shall call you Goldina, because after gold, he named his kid after gold, riches. And Alice, my second, God has blessed me with another woman, and you shall make change in how people are treating and this and that. And I shall name you after Alice, who is the, I'm going to make, I made a storyline that he names her Alice because Alice was the Caucasian person who helped pay for his travel to America. That's my storyline.
Oh, that's a good name.
Oh, you mean
Sounds right.
Yeah,
story?
that's my story. That's my Hollywood thing. But and he's telling him, and this is the high point, and then a few weeks later, this San Francisco earthquake, boom, hits, and that scene happens of their devastation and him. Where's my papers? Where's my, I have no papers, and it's basically he's nobody now in a foreign land.
This is Uncle Roland, and it's April the 6th, 2021. And I'm going to talk about Charles Sing Lee, our maternal grandfather, my maternal grandfather. And his Chinese name was Lee Gon Kew. Gon and Kew. Charles Lee was born in Jungshan, but at the time of his birth, the county was called Heungsan, which meant sweet-smelling county. But it was since Sun Yat-sen was born in the same county, they renamed it Jungshan, which means the center of the mountains. His village was Lai, Lai, Yuk Bin, and it was in, the village also was in the area called Nam Long. I'm not exactly sure the way the Chinese have their system. I know in the Chinese system, counties are considered smaller than cities. But anyway, he was born in Lai Yuk Bin in Nam Long, and that was in Jungshan County of Guangdong. And a little geography is that this was in the Pearl River area, and it was considered a fairly prosperous area. Charles Lee was born on 1864 and died in 1932. Charles Lee was brought to the United States as a scholar by the Presbyterian Church. And that's part of the reason that there was so much activity of the Presbyterian Church. And historically, he came in to the United States, and he got his diploma in dentistry in San Francisco. And we have a picture of the diploma. I think Cousin Wayland made a copy of it that you have. However, in 1906, the great earthquake occurred in San Francisco, and the family was quite distressed because they had difficulty finding him, but he had to go back into the city to recover his diploma, because that was only evidence that he had a degree in dentistry. So after 1906, great earthquake, they had to leave San Francisco. And at first they were in Oakland, then they moved to Locke. And Locke is along the Sacramento River and was a settlement for people of Jungsan heritage. At the time, there was a intense competition between the Jungsan people and the Toisan people. And in the beginning, there was a very large contingency of Chinese in Walnut Grove. However, the Jungsan people were outnumbered and were driven out of Walnut Grove, and they were able to find a place to stay at the Lockheed farm. The farmer gave them a place to stay, and it's unclear historically whether they bought the land or whether the farmer did it out of the goodness of his heart. So Charles Lee, during this time, lived in Locke, California, Lockheed. And my mother said that he used to take they had a paddle wheel ferry that took him down to Suisun City, where he would work during the daytime as a dentist. Then afterwards, he would come back home and stay in Lockheed. So this occurred for a period of time that I'm not quite sure how long that happened. Ultimately, they moved up to Portland, Oregon. The family moved up there, and we know that the people born immediately after my mother, like Auntie Clara and Rosie, they were all born in Portland, Oregon. In Portland, Oregon, they lived on Burnside Street, and we have the address, I think it's 637 Burnside. And he attended a law school there in Portland, Oregon, the University of Oregon. And we have his diploma. He graduated in the year 1911. Apparently, after he graduated, he returned back to San Francisco, and they lived on Clay Street with the family. And historically, we have record that he had difficulty getting his license with the state of California to officially practice dentistry. And he had to actually sue the state of California, apparently with his knowledge from his law degree, and was able to get his license to practice dentistry. The history that I have is also that he was very much a social activist, and he married our grandmother. Her name was Go Dai Hay, means big happiness, Dai Hay. And I had a chance to meet a number of Grandma Lee's sisters, And they had interesting names like uh, uh, gum, basically things named after money. So I wouldn't be surprised if the family might have been in the jewelry business. Grandma Lee, Charles Lee's wife, Dai Hay, was born in San Francisco and apparently was a very prominent family. I know that there was a uncle that I don't know whether he was from Charles Lee's side or whether he was from Dai Hay's side, but the uncle was quite a literate gentleman, and he would come over to quiz my mother, Alice Lee, and her sisters on their Chinese, and if their Chinese wasn't spoken correctly, he would draw a great big black circle around their eye and make fun of them, which created some conflict. But apparently, the family was educated. Since Grandpa Charles Lee came as a Christian, when they got married, it was married at the Presbyterian Church, and she refused to wear any Chinese gowns, or which she also refused to kowtow because she felt it was not a Christian thing to do. And this was part of their activist role in San Francisco Chinatown. Charles Lee was very active in the sense that he would sacrifice himself and go out in the evening to save young Chinese gals from prostitution. At the time, women came to the United States mainly through prostitution system, such that it was sort of an enslavement. And Charles Lee was one of the activists that would go out and bring them back to the Cameron House. Cameron House apparently was a shelter for a lot of these Chinese gals. The other thing I know about Charles Lee was that he was a diabetic, and this was before the time of insulin, and ultimately he died of insulin and diabetic causes. I would like to say a little bit about his wife, Go Dai Hay. This grandmother, I don't know her year of birth, but she died in 1971, and she was approximately 84 years old at that time, according to the family, though I don't have her exact date of birth. She was a person with very quiet in general. When I, as a child, grew up, we would visit grandma, and she would make us speak Chinese to her, but she was watching television all the time. She lived with Uncle Ted on 44th Street, and Charles Lee had 10 children. The oldest was Godina, and Godina had 3 children, Roger Pond,